Hey guys, and welcome to a quite frankly ridiculous game between the mighty forces of Captain Morgan leading his clan Eshin to the battlefield up against Papa Palpatine and his Durfu sub-faction for the forces of the Wood Elves. And we're going to pause this battle at the start here because it gets underway right away and it is an absolute flustercluck of madness. Both of these guys have gone for full Vanguard rush style of play, and this is a good example of how sometimes Vanguard doesn't really work the way you're expecting it to work. So let's very quickly go through the builds and then we'll delve into this absolute beautiful carnage that does await us. So for the forces of the Skaven, we do have Death Runners looking to jump the enemy front line as quickly as possible, including the Regiment of Renown, but instead they're going to find themselves in the midst of a load of Deepwood Scouts who are coming in with those swift Shiver Shards there for the forces of the Wood Elves. Now those Death Runners are going to rip and tear into them rather quickly, so it looks like a bit of fortuitous positioning from them. However, something that's not so fortuitous is the Eshin Triads in the front line, including the Regiment of Renown once again, because they're going to be fighting up against their Wood Elf front line of Dryads. That is a really bad matchup there for the Skaven forces. Leading both these armies, as we can see in the central pocket, we have the Assassin King himself. It's not really an Eshin build unless you bring him. It is the Death Master Snickich, the head of the Order of Assassins for the Skaven, and he's coming in not quite with all the goodies. Doesn't have the Whirling Weeping Blades, but apart from that, he does have the ability to pin the enemy in place with his sigil, as well as coming in with Slippery. He can easily dispatch the majority of the Wood Elf leadership, though Durfu may be one tree too far. Aiding him in his misdemeanors and adventures, we have the Eshin Sorcerer coming in with the Brittle Bones, going to be quite useful up against Durfu, in fact a lovely debuff, as well as the Black Whirlwind, a really underrated Vortex ability, which looks quite beautiful. Leading the force of the Wood Elves, we have a Branch Wraith, kind of Earthblood, Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, as well as the Pendulum, and the Mighty Durfu, coming in completely naked, which is an interesting choice. No spells for him, he's just a huge pincushion that can bring the pain to the enemy, looking as crazed and maniacal as always. Over on the far side, on both the flanks, I believe, we do have some lovely Glade Riders with spears, as well as Wild Riders. That's going to be on both positions for the forces of the Wood Elves, with some Glade Riders in there as well, with the Hagbane tips. But for the force of the Skaven, we actually have gold chevroned Wolf Rats. So Wolf Rats here, and guess what? More Wolf Rats. On the other hand flank, though, it looks like it is unfortunately a little bit dogless. We have some more Wolf Rats in the back, hidden in the trees, and then there is one unit which shall not be vanguarded today, or doesn't have the possibility of being vanguarded, and that is the Natty Bobu's Sharpshooters. I like this pick quite a bit in a Vanguard-themed build, because they can look after themselves relatively well, having that stalk and, you should be able to shoot from long range, bring down the enemy, and if your opponent's targeting them, they're not targeting that massive rush that's going to be jumping into their face. So without further ado, let's get this carnage underway, and immediately those Deepwood Scouts are regretting their decision to leave their woodland realms and getting carved up, but real good micromanagement here by Palpatine instantly moves them to safety, or as much as possible, trying to find sanctuary amongst the Dryads and other troops. We do have that whirling vortex spell birthed into existence to rip and tear at the skin and thick bark of Durfu and his Dryads. Durfu, a lot tougher there, does manage to escape, but the Dryads, poor little devils, are getting carved up quite nastily there. Some of the Deepwood Scouts are getting finished off comfortably now by the Triads as well as the Death Runners, who have pulled back to deal with some of the Dryads. On the left-hand side, though, that cavalry comes back into a defensive position, which I agree with quite a bit. Rather than just pushing forward to attack the enemy, use them defensively, although now there is a bucket ton of Triads around, maybe a good idea to pull back where possible. Durfu does get pinned in place by the Deathmaster Sigil, and it looks like he is currently beating the living crap out of an Eshin Sorcerer who's going to have to run for her life. Vistran's Death Squad is nearby, and they should be able to assist relatively well. Wolf Rats do manage to break off some Glade Riders. A big pendulum comes down the line, clearing quite a few of the Death Squad there, who are now struggling up against the mighty beast himself, which is, of course, Durfu. Natty Bobu's Sharpshooters continue to rain shots in, and they've, at the moment, still not been spotted, it would seem. A lot of the Glade Riders are clearing up Triads in the back, and there is some desperate Wolf Rats trying to hold back the Wild Riders. Don't know if that's going to go well for too long, and now the Glade Riders do lower their spears, and that is a dead unit of Natty Bobus. There is no Wolf Rats, no Triads, nothing that can come back here and support this unit. In the main fight, you can see Deathmaster Snickich is trying to get to grips with Durfu where possible, who's done a really good job considering he's surrounded by those regiment-renowned Eshin Triads, but no doubt going to be doing some massive damage to him. Deathmaster rolls under a couple of arrows there and goes to slice the head from the shoulders of this Branch Wraith, who gets back up onto her feet and immediately starts running away. This is a good life decision by this Branch Wraith. Flee for your life. Durfu, on the other hand, shall move into the Carnage and gets a big slap there on the Deathmaster. Deathmaster, very good at dealing damage, not so good at taking damage. You can see a lot of the Triads have broken, as have the Death Runners of the Droids, combined with the Cavalry, have managed to clear up the majority of the forces on the flanks, and that is going to be a very swift game. 2 minutes and 17 seconds of absolute ridiculousness. Well played to both these guys. A stupid game, and I love it. These are some of the games I love in Total War Warhammer, which you really do not get in any of the other Total War games. Just absolute beautiful death and carnage. Well played to Captain Morgan. Well played to Papa Palpatine. You don't rush the Rushers. Wood Elves, one of the best rush factions in the entire game, and they meant business. Now, this is a good example of why Vanguarding sometimes isn't always the best idea, but is always the coolest thing you could do. Well played to both these champs. We will go through the damage dealt and damage value of all of these units in just a second. Looks like the Deathmaster didn't have the greatest day. I'd expect the Wild Riders to get the most value out of anyone here. But if you guys enjoyed this silly battle, make sure to leave a big juicy thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel as well for more Total War Warhammer content into the future. And comment down below what you thought of the battle, what you would like to see in the future. And just yell quack at me. I really do enjoy reading all your comments. There's links down below, a bucket ton of them now, to my Twitch. We'll actually be streaming it later today. There's links to my Discord, links to my Patreon, basically absolutely everything you could ever want in a YouTube description. So let's get back to the absolute carnage here. So the Deathmaster Snicketch, only 452 damage value. He did manage to jab and poke a little bit at the Branch Wraith. Unfortunately, was used to chase off some Deepwood Scouts before realising that's probably not the best use of my time. But by the time he got back, the rest of his army was collapsing. That goes to show a little bit of the selfishness of assassins, leaving his whole army to die while he went out seeking glory. Eshin Sorcerer, only 360 damage value and 9 kills. Really cool cast, though, of his Vortex. And the Eshin Triads got butchered to the last Skaven. That real unfortunate position. Going straight up against infantry blenders in the form of those Droids there. 540 damage value and 270. Ishka's Triads fared a bit better with 600 damage value, surrounding Durfu for a time and trying to sink those Weeping Blades into his bark and flesh. Death Runners got some okay kills, 444 damage value, 695 and 950. Isn't too shabby whatsoever, 64 and 85 kills, very nice work. Vistron's Death Squad, 447 damage value, did spend quite a lot of time fighting Durfu, not a good target for them. Natty Bobu Sharpshooters, only 591 value. The Gold Chevron Wolf Rats simply got overwhelmed by the Cavalry. They tried their hardest, the standout being this unit here, with 600 value on itself. As for the force of Papa Palpatine, relatively unscathed here. You can see a lot of them still very healthy. And the mighty Durfu, 1.4k damage value despite bringing no spells and the battle being so short. He was really into the thick of it. Branch Wraith got 400 value. Droids across the board did really solid work, just blending their way through Triads, which is their job, of course, here. The Deepwood Scouts of Swift Shiver Shards unfortunately performed really badly. 83 damage value, 82 damage value, and a 497. I quite like the pick up against Skaven, but they were jumped and just torn away from their homes and loved ones a little bit earlier than expected. Glade Riders, 692 damage value, 924, and the Wild Riders, 1.1 and 1000 damage value. Really been a standout here for the Wood Elf forces. Glade Riders are Hagbane tips did okay, 530 damage value, but not the best targets for them. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace, and as always, stay awesome.